It is 10 p.m. on Sunday night. Been in the shop most of the weekend. Made this really cool chuck key that works for the small chuck that gets either used in the chuck of the lathe or mostly on the table of the milling machine. So that's super handy. New addition because the old chuck key was always hitting this stop here on the table. And I don't know that in the last update cleaned up the power drawbar for the milling machine in terms of fixed up this radius here where the aluminum had expanded, belt sanded it nice, cleaned off some corners here where the material wasn't quite cleaned up and where there was some paint from when the steel was inventoried, the color coding on the ends of a bar, just a little bit of that. Just cleaning things up that just don't feel quite where I would like them to be in terms of just feeling great in this space. And excited to have the tooling holder on the lathe or for the milling machine. It's on the lathe, but it's for the milling machine, and the one for the lathe. And the other cool thing is added a few different things as far as the center drills. Put the screwdrivers in here a little bit different than last time. You can see all the collets are grouped together, all the welding holders are grouped together, milling cutters and drill chucks, boring bars. So things are grouped a lot better than when they were just holes that were just drilled without thinking about what fit where. So that's exciting. There's also a stud holder for the radial arm drill. Anyhow, we'll go through it all. Other thing, this tripod here, which all it had for legs before were just these stumps with little threads. So machined some pieces of 3/8 aluminum round bar and drilled holes, radius the ends. So that's usable for when we have multiple things set up for videos or an audio recorder, whatever. It's just one of those things that found its way here and either was going to get thrown out, maybe donated to someone. Anyhow, probably would end up in the garbage. So other thing, this door here is for an electrical cabinet that we had out in the scrap for about the past year. And while it was covered in a snowbank, I got thinking, I wonder if that cabinet would work for a weatherproof enclosure on the back of the oxyacetylene torch cart for all the spare cutting heads, the rosebud, all the other little odds and ends that go with the torches. Love keeping tools grouped together. And if the team here, if they're not people that can be trusted to keep things together in a way and inventoried, then it's time to rethink the leadership and how that strategy comes together. So that feels like a big win. Started on this TIG torch, TIG welder, inverter TIG welder cart. Gonna do it a little bit different than a conventional cart. It's gonna stand vertical where a lot of the bottles are tipped over on an angle. This is gonna take up less space. And I think on the whole, it's gonna be a lot easier for taking a look at the machine, having it more eye level, visual control, lean principle. And let's see what else is on the list. Tripod. Oh yeah, we didn't go over here to the radial arm drill. So this is the tool holder for the radial arm drill for the studs. And back there, that is a tabletop for number 5 Morse taper to go in the spindle. So we kept those separate in terms of that stuff can work by sitting in a drawer most of the time, but also optional. They could sit on top of that. So keeping things versatile. Oh, the other thing, we're cleaning up over here by the door. That was one of the things that was on the list for this weekend, and a couple other things ended up getting done that weren't on the list. So one of the things I was really excited about, there's a old 1955 Aaron's rototiller under that sheet, which the sheet is there, so the sawdust from the table saw will not cover that and get into places where it's a pain to clean it out. So anyhow, it's something that doesn't need to be in here. There's just not a good storage spot for it. So it was sitting over there. Now it's more out of the way. And also found a spot for the Hausfeld universal bender is sitting crossways behind the welding machines, as well as all the dies for the Hausfeld, which allowed the fume extractor to sit in here. This used to actually sit in the row of all the welders before. So finding better homes for quite a few things, which has been gratifying. Speaking of new homes for things, the list for all the shop projects, as far as all the machinery, upgrades, repairs, it's turned 90 degrees and it's now on the work in progress cart. So this is going to help track what work in progress is on the cart itself and can help inventory where things are, make little notes. So this is in its infancy. We're going to try and see how it goes. Really excited. This is just one of those things I was looking at, thought, oh, that might fit there. So I'm going to have some little aluminum angle brackets that bolt on to all these holes here. Actually, why not just take a little look at it? Oh. And there's the bracket there. So sometimes it's just quick, easy, stuff like that that makes all the difference in the world. And other improvement is the light for the bandsaw. So wire this switch up, so in this position the light can just stay on, and in this position the light comes on with the blade. So that way it's not going to get left on. It's not a matter of turning the light on and off all the time. Yeah, so, and for critical jobs you can just leave the light on and not worry about it. So that felt like a major improvement to get that sorted out. That was a job that wasn't even on the list, and somehow I wanted to look at how the transformer was hooked up. The transformer was being used for the control voltage for the motor starter, and I found a better way to hook up a ground and a neutral off the transformer, which, anyhow, that's taken care of, taking a look at that, made sure everything was well done, well up to code, and that's an improvement. So the other thing is, I think that's about it. So it's been a busy weekend and feeling like it's time for a rest. Anyhow, made a nice pizza for dinner tonight. And even though I haven't been spending time making a crust where it rises with yeast, it feels really nice to be at least making the crust. Not having to think, oh, do I want to have pizza dough in the freezer, or buying fresh pizza dough and then trying to think about when to use it so it doesn't go bad, or anyhow, not going through any of that mental stuff. Just know, oh, a few scoops of flour, a cup of water, and putting all those ingredients together. And one of the key strategies that I think works really well in this life is finding a win in our personal life, finding a win in our business life, and going back what worked well and why, and then we can take the principle and apply it to other areas in our life. One of the ways I think about this a lot is the things I was really passionate about learning were go get a book, talk with people. There was a lot of places in my life where I wasn't doing that, where I didn't know the people who were really passionate about certain things. Being happy, for instance, that was one of those things where a lot of people had limiting beliefs about why they can't be happy, where being a work in progress, it's really important to take a look beyond and just say, No, I'm determined. I'm going to be happy. If it means changing my lifestyle in order to be happy, if it means changing my beliefs to be happy, then I need to stop identifying as my beliefs in terms of who I am because of my career, the kind of car I drive, how I am with my family, but really develop parts of our inner world that aren't there. And not to say to not be loving and kind and generous and trustworthy, all those virtuous things, virtueproject.org. I love that they've got a list of virtues. So to focus more on virtues than status, wealth, attainment, all these temporal things that are fleeting, where the virtuous stuff, the gifts of character, and I've gone on about that stuff in the past. Anyhow, just thinking about things like that, being clever, inventive, consistent, persistent, mindful, detail oriented, all those things are real gifts to share in this world where, being the owner of a machine shop, it's not who we are. So anyhow, also working on when people do define me as that I don't feel the need to resist when people define me as those things. To know that that's not who I am, but to be able to wear that hat for a second and run with it for a minute, to be able to relate with people, and then to bring in the bigger picture of what it really means to me in terms of the importance of writing our own ticket, finding freedom, autonomy, independence, creativity. I'm rambling on. It's 10 o'clock, 10, way after 10. Battery's dying in the phone. Thanks again for joining. Look forward to having you here for the next update. Please comment on things you want to see more about, things I missed, things you'd like to see more. Anyhow, please comment, like, subscribe if you like. Thanks again.